Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of Power Pack number 3 from Marvel Comics. This is the 5-issue miniseries that's out right now, and it is part of the Outlawed crossover, but I don't think you have to read the other books in the crossover to understand this. Basically, if you're an underage superhero in the Marvel Universe, you need a mentor right now, and these are underage superheroes, or at least most of them are, and Alex, we can debate about the age. But anyway, let's start with this cover. So there's a lot of good things going on with this cover. I like the colors. I like the fact it fills the space. I like the kind of glowing effect on Katie's powers there. But the stylization is a little weird to me, like Jack, and why is he smiling like that? And Alex is a little too buff. He's been working out. And honestly, I'm scratching my head at why we have a rendering of the characters for the third issue. This doesn't tell me anything about what's going on inside. This is just a generic shot of the characters. This could have been a variant cover, but this doesn't tell me anything about what's going on. And honestly, since this series tells each issue from the point of view of one of the Power Pack, how great would it have been if we could have got a cover devoted to the person that's telling the story, which in this case is Julie? That would have been great. That would have been very unique. I mean, they could have actually done like 4 interconnected covers with each of the Power Packs, since Ryan North has each of them narrating an issue. Next issue is going to be Jack. So solid cover, but not really a seller, is what I would say. And then we get Katie's recap page, and she's the youngest member, but she's not this young. But it's still a very, very funny gag, and I love opening up these issues and getting these horribly crudely drawn recaps from Katie. I still find the artwork to be a mixed bag. I don't really care for how he draws their powers, but this artist is very expressive. And he just does a fantastic job of drawing the at-home scenes and giving each character their own fashion sense, and, telling the story, as far as their mundane family life goes, and, puts in backgrounds when needed. So, even though I probably might have preferred other artists to do this one, he definitely has a lot of good stuff going on here. The story continues to be a mix of comedy and family drama and occasional fight scenes. In this issue, and I'm not spoiling anything that wasn't in the solicitations, they fight Taskmaster, and they're having problems with their powers, so Taskmaster is a little bit more of a challenge than he should be when he's fighting someone who actually has powers. This is actually a pretty clever idea, but unfortunately the end of the fight is a little bit wonky. I'm not going to show you the panels because I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say it's kind of fuzzy storytelling. They have to outsmart Taskmaster because their powers aren't working quite right, and it's a scene that feels more at home in Squirrel Girl than it would here. But, giving Ryan North the benefit of a doubt that Taskmaster would fall for such a trick, it's still done very awkwardly, as far as the visuals go. Katie, the youngest, who has energy powers, would have to be in a very specific spot to make this happen, and she's drawn, the scene is drawn in a way that wouldn't put her anywhere near that spot. And so what happens is Julie yells out the plan, and Katie jumps. She actually looks like she flies in the panel, but she has to jump to this place to make it happen. And it requires Taskmaster to completely ignore everything Julie is yelling about Katie ambushing him. And it's just weird. There were quite a few different ways that scene could have worked. Julie could have perhaps use hand signals while talking to Taskmaster to get Katie to the right position, or they could have just drawn it with the Power Pack standing where they needed to stand to make that scene work. I'm not sure quite why, something like this would have slipped into this story. To be honest with you, Squirrel Girl works on so many different levels, and that's one of them where, if there's a scene like this, it's going to make sense in the context of the comic. So it's a little disappointing to see something like that here. And there's also a bit of weird visual storytelling at the end where there's a very dramatic scene that's only described in dialogue and we don't see it. It happens off panel, which is really weird. And then, it's kind of hard to, it took me a little bit to make out quite what was going on at the end as far as, the visuals go, like what was that thing coming at them and stuff like that. It's a little disappointing considering the caliber of talent on this comic that they're very talented people. This artist is very talented. Ryan North is obviously a very talented writer. He wrote Squirrel Girl, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the finest modern comics around. And it's just kind of weird how you get all these good ingredients and they don't quite gel. That being said, it's still better than most of your comics out there. I mean, it's certainly better than most of the Conan and Ultraman comics I've reviewed for the last year from Marvel. So, and by the way, this issue is told from Julie's point of view, and I found it quite cool. Katie in the first issue was a lot of fun because she's the youngest, and Alex was, kind of dry and straightforward, because he's the oldest and he's kind of square-jawed and all that. And Julie is somewhere in between. She's a little older now, and she's bisexual, and she has a girlfriend, and she's into science, and she's actually part of the Future Foundation, which is, I don't think is really explained in here, but that's the think tank for the Fantastic Four. It takes a bunch of young aspiring scientists and gets them together. So she's probably a supporting character in the Fantastic Four, I would guess, but I'm not entirely certain. The references are very cryptic, including the one to her girlfriend, and I had to look this up, but this is actually Ricky Barnes, who is the female Bucky. And I'm going to let you guys look that up because that is a long, convoluted, strange backstory in and of itself as to who that character is. The Marvel Universe is a very complicated place. I think probably Ryan North was making these references kind of vague and cryptic because he may not have been wanting to step on the toes of the other writer who's writing Julie, again, presumably whoever's doing Fantastic Four. And honestly, this book is not about what these characters are doing when they're in other titles. This is, kind of them taking time off from the Future Foundation or whatever they're doing and spending time with their family where they're a little bit different. And I suppose perhaps that is where the blame goes for Julie being a blonde, is that she's probably got that going on in Fantastic Four, whatever it is she's appearing in. So anyway, overall, it's a mixed bag, but it is enjoyable. So if you're into Power Pack, you don't have a whole lot of other options here, so go ahead and pick this up. If you're not, you might want to give it a try. It's certainly better than a lot of the other stuff out there. But this is only the third issue, and we've got 2 more to go, and we'll see where it goes. All right, like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, see ya.